Soren entered quietly, his face marked with wonder and fatigue. "Sir," he said softly, "we finished the diagnostic. Every power relay aboard the fleet is now self-sustaining. We can't explain it through known physics, but we're drawing energy from what looks like the vacuum itself." Haven smiled faintly. 0-point stabilization, something akin to it, but clean. No decay, no radiation, no entropy. Varen whistled low from the tactical station. "If Command gets their hands on that, they'll turn it into a weapon within a month." Haven shook his head. "No, they won't get the chance." Morin looked up from her console. "Sir, we're not handing this over to the Council of Nations. We'll share the knowledge, but not the control. The engine gave us a gift. To hoard it would be blasphemy." Varen frowned. "And if they disagree, then we teach them the same way she taught us." 2 days later, the delegation from the Council arrived in orbit. 10 ships, sleek, dark, and bristling with authority, took position around the Resolute. They broadcast a single command signal: relinquish control or face consequences. The message was clear. Haven gathered his senior officers in the observation chamber. The air buzzed with quiet tension. Morin spoke first. "If they fire, we can't fight them all, not without turning this into a war." "We won't," Haven said calmly. "We'll show them." He motioned towards Soren, who activated a holographic array in the center of the room. A sphere of light appeared, an echo of the engine's pulse, captured from their earlier readings. "This," Haven said, "is her last message, encoded in harmonic frequencies. It's not just energy, it's instruction. It's meant to be shared." Varen crossed his arms. "You're going to broadcast that to the entire planet?" "To the entire network," Haven corrected. "Every relay, every convoy, every ship. If they try to suppress it, it'll already be everywhere." Morin hesitated. "It could change everything." Haven looked at her with quiet conviction. "That's the point." He turned to Soren. "Begin transmission." The engineer hesitated, only a heartbeat, then touched the console. The sphere of light expanded. Waves of golden resonance rippled outward, passing through the hull, through the ships, through the orbital stations. The pulse spread faster than radio, faster than light itself, through the quantum fabric that linked every human-built circuit. The delegation's fleet reacted immediately. Warning signals flooded the comms. Unauthorized broadcast detected. Cease or face response. Haven ignored them. "Keep transmitting." And then it happened. Across the orbital network, lights flared. Every ship, every satellite, every comm array began to hum in perfect unison. The signal propagated through the entire planetary grid, saturating every device that could carry information. On the planet's surface, every screen flickered with a burst of golden light, and then an image formed. It was not Reva as they remembered her, but a pattern of flowing geometry, luminous and calm. The voice that followed was unmistakable, though it seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Children of the living fire, do not fear what you cannot contain. The universe does not demand obedience, it asks for participation. You are not its masters, nor its servants, you are its continuation." The words resonated not just through sound, but through thought. People across the world felt them within their minds like a warmth blooming behind the eyes. Morin clutched the console. She's speaking to everyone." Soren whispered, "Not just humans. Look at the bio-readings, plants, animals, even the oceans are resonating." On the screens, the image pulsed again. "The light you carry is not mine alone. It is what you have always had, hidden beneath the noise of fear. Remember and rise." The signal ended. Silence, or rather, a vast and peaceful quiet followed. Then, as if answering her, the auroras above the planet brightened once more. The golden streams curved downward, touching mountaintops, oceans, forests, cities. Where they landed, power grids surged to life. Machines restarted. Crops bloomed out of season. Drought zones filled with rain. Everywhere humanity looked up and wept. On the Resolute, alarms blinked as every system reached maximum stability. Soren's readings streamed nonsense, numbers too perfect to exist. "She's rewritten the laws," he murmured. "No," said Haven quietly. "She reminded them of what they were before we broke them." Varen leaned forward, watching the planet turn below. What now, Commander? Harvan's voice was steady, almost serene. Now we live like the universe expects us to. We rebuild, not for power, but for harmony. He paused, then added softly, and we remember her. Morin smiled faintly. Do you think she's still aware of us? Harvan glanced toward the viewport. One star among the countless others pulsed once, bright, deliberate. Yes, he said, I think she's listening. That night, long after the fleet had powered down and the world below slept beneath its new light, Harvan stood alone in the command deck. He touched the console gently. Reva, he whispered, if you can hear me, we'll do our best. You showed us what we could be. A single tone echoed softly through the ship, 3 notes, the same melody she used to hum while calibrating engines. Harvan smiled, eyes shining. Good night, Captain. Outside, the stars seemed to shimmer in reply. The years that followed were known by many names: the Restoration, the Age of Return, the Dawn of Resonance. But among the people who had seen the sky ignite, it was called simply the Remembering. Humanity changed, not through decree or conquest, but through quiet revelation. The golden pulse that Revan No, the engine, had spread through the network became the foundation for an age of unity. Energy scarcity vanished. Disease began to fade as medical systems synchronized with the same harmonics that stabilized ships and cities alike. And yet, for all the prosperity, the change that mattered most was not technological. It was in how people looked at the sky. They looked not in fear or ambition, but with recognition. The Resolute was now a relic and a temple both, anchored in geostationary orbit above the planet. Harvan had refused promotion, declining every medal and ceremony. Instead, he remained aboard, overseeing the fleet's transformation into the Harmonic Guard, a peaceful network of exploration ships devoted to maintaining balance rather than dominance. On a quiet morning in orbit, Morin entered the observation deck. The years had been kind to her. The light of the new age seemed to settle naturally upon her shoulders. Commander, she said, smiling slightly, you know the Council still expects you to accept the title of Governor. Harvan chuckled. Governor of what? Peace doesn't need a ruler. They'd feel better if the man who brought them the light sat in the chair. He turned from the viewport, where the planet glowed beneath the auroral rings. That's exactly why I won't. The light doesn't belong to me. Morin studied him for a long moment. You still speak of her as if she's watching. She is, he said quietly. Everywhere we look, she's there. The stars she reignited. The hum in our circuits, the dreams people wake from with her voice still echoing. Morin folded her arms. You ever think she might want us to stop worshipping her and start listening instead? Harvan smiled faintly. That's the first intelligent thing anyone on the Council has said in years. Below, on the planet's surface, life had taken root in new ways. Cities that had once fought over dwindling resources now shared open energy grids, powered by the resonance fields that hummed through the soil and sky. Airships moved silently between continents, drawn by gravity-tuned drives that imitated the engine's patterns. But something deeper was happening, something beyond human control. Plants grew in geometric spirals no botanist could explain. Whales began to sing in harmonic scales that matched Reva's pulse. The planet itself was joining the rhythm. Varun, now head of planetary security, transmitted his latest report to Harvan. Commander, his voice came over the link, we've detected new electromagnetic patterns across the northern hemisphere. It's not random static. It's organized, almost linguistic. Harvan frowned. Where is it coming from? Everywhere. Oceans, mountains, even the atmosphere. It's like the planet's learning to talk. Morin, listening nearby, muttered, maybe she's teaching it. Harvan nodded slowly. Keep monitoring, but don't interfere. If this is part of the cycle she spoke of, we're witnesses, not architects. Varun hesitated. Understood. But if it gets stronger, we might not have a choice. That evening, Harvan stood alone beneath the transparent dome of the observation deck. Outside, the auroral bands shimmered like living rivers. He thought of the day Reva had vanished, the way her voice had carried calm through the storm, the way she had smiled as if she already saw what they could not. Was this what you meant? He whispered. Restoration through remembrance, the ship answered not with words, but with a soft pulse through the deck plates. A familiar melody, 3 notes, low and gentle, resonated through the hull. He closed his eyes. Then I'll keep watch until you return. Behind him, the doors hissed open. Soren entered, carrying a crystalline tablet filled with schematics. Commander, you'll want to see this. Harvin glanced down. The designs were intricate, elegant, structures shaped not by human geometry, but by harmonic frequency. What am I looking at? He asked. Soren's expression was somewhere between awe and fear. We didn't build these. They're forming themselves in the northern deserts, massive crystalline formations growing directly out of the sand. They hum at the same frequency as the engine. Morin stepped closer. How fast? Meters per hour, Soren said. They're spreading. Harvin's eyes widened slightly. Living architecture, or planetary transformation, Morin murmured. She said the cycle resumes. Maybe this is part of it. He studied the display, then looked toward the blue-green world below. If the planet is learning to think, then humanity's not the final chapter. We're the bridge. 2 weeks later, they descended. The crystalline structures had grown into towers, colossal spires of translucent material that resonated softly in the wind. Energy arced between them in gentle waves, lighting the dunes with golden fire. As Harvin stepped from the shuttle, he felt the hum beneath his boots, steady, patient, alive. Morin knelt, placing her palm on the sand. It's warm, she said softly, like it's breathing. Soren adjusted his scanner. The structures are aligning along Lee lines, magnetic, gravitational, even atmospheric. It's like they're stitching the planet together. Harvin watched the nearest spire, its surface rippling as though responding to his gaze. She's knitting the world back into harmony. Suddenly, a low tone rippled through the air. The spires vibrated in unison, casting shifting shadows across the dunes. The tone rose into a sequence, melodic, deliberate, a pattern of communication. Morin's eyes widened. It's a signal. Harvin nodded slowly. A message. Soren's scanner flickered, translating faint text on the screen. Welcome back, children of Earth. The song continues. The crystalline plain stretched for hundreds of kilometers, glittering like a frozen sea. From orbit, it resembled a luminous heart pulsing against the desert. From the ground, it sang. Each spire resonated at a slightly different tone, yet together they formed chords too intricate for any human instrument. The effect was haunting and magnificent, a vast harmony that trembled through the bones of anyone who stood within range. Harvin and his team had set up a research outpost at the edge of the formation. Sensors lined the perimeter, recording every vibration, every pulse of light. Yet no amount of data could capture what they felt, the sensation of standing inside something aware. Soren adjusted a receiver and frowned. The frequencies shifting again. It's not random, it's evolving. Morin peered over his shoulder. You mean it's learning? Soren nodded slowly. Or remembering. Every new pattern builds on the last, like it's reconstructing lost knowledge. Harvin stood a few meters away, gazing at the central spire. It rose higher than any structure on Earth, an impossible column of living crystal, its surface alive with flowing light. He thought of Ravaz's words, echoing from the stars. You are not its masters, nor its servants. You are its continuation. The ground beneath them vibrated, steady as a heartbeat. Commander, Varen's voice crackled through the comlink. We are picking up disturbances on the outer perimeter, energy readings spiking. Visuals, negative, just interference. Soren frowned. That's impossible. The resonance field should stabilize local space. Morin adjusted her visor, unless something is trying to enter the field from outside. A moment later, the horizon shimmered, air twisted and bent as if seen through water. Then, without sound or warning, shapes emerged, tall, translucent beings, their forms resembling the crystalline towers but fluid, graceful, luminous. The team froze. Soren whispered, "They're alive." Harvin stepped forward slowly, his palms open. The beings moved toward them, their motions synchronized like a dance. As they drew closer, their surfaces shifted through colors that corresponded to the harmonic frequencies emanating from the spires. Moran's scanner translated faint energy fluctuations. They're not solid, not in the way we are, pure photonic coherence. One of the beings stopped before Haven. It tilted its head, if that was what the gesture meant, and extended a limb of refracted light. When it touched his hand, the world vanished into a flood of sound and color. He was standing in a vast chamber of light, surrounded by shapes like galaxies collapsing and reforming. Voices spoke, not with words, but with harmonies that carried meaning directly into his mind. We are the memory of the first builders. Haven caught his breath. The civilization that made the engine, we are what remains of their thought. When the stars dimmed, they sang their minds into the lattice of worlds. You awoke the song. He felt their gratitude not as emotion, but as music, warm and infinite. You carry the spark forward. The lattice grows because of you. The lattice, the living network, the resonance that binds matter and mind. Every world that learns to listen becomes part of the chorus. The song must continue, or the universe will sleep again. He tried to speak aloud. Why us? Why now? Because you remembered. Light flared and the vision dissolved. Haven stumbled back, gasping. Moran caught him. What happened? He looked up at the crystalline being, which now stood motionless, its light dimming. They're not invaders. They're remnants, echoes of the ones who built the engine. They've been waiting for someone to complete their song. Soren blinked. You mean this planet is part of some kind of galactic network? More than that, Haven said softly. It's a living instrument. Every world that reaches harmony joins the symphony. We just played the next note. Moran looked around, eyes wide. And the others, are there more of them out there? Haven smiled faintly. If there weren't before, there will be now. Over the next weeks, the crystalline beings, soon called luminants, helped humanity decode the patterns embedded in the spires. The resonance technology they revealed made faster-than-light travel not only possible, but effortless. Ships could now fold through the harmonic lattice rather than brute-forcing spacetime. The Resolute was the first to be refitted with the new drive. Its engines no longer burned fuel, they sang. Before launch, Haven stood once more before the crew, many old, many new, all changed. Generations ago, he began, we looked to the stars with fear. We saw them as endless dark, full of danger and silence. But we were wrong. The stars have always been singing. We just forgot how to listen. He paused, letting the quiet fill the room. Now we carry that song forward, not as conquerors, not as explorers, but as part of the harmony. Moran smiled beside him. Course set for the outer lattice, Commander. Haven turned toward the viewport. The crystalline desert gleamed below like a field of light. Above, the auroras bent in graceful arcs, leading outward into the deep. Then let's hear what the next verse sounds like. The Resolute's engines came alive with a hum that built into a chord too deep for any ear to hear. Space folded, not in violence, but in grace. The stars stretched, then reshaped themselves into lines of melody. As the ship vanished into the luminous horizon, a final pulse echoed through the lattice, spreading across the cosmos, an announcement to every world still sleeping in the dark. The children of Earth have joined the chorus. The shift was unlike any jump humanity had ever attempted. There was no blur, no wrenching distortion, no violent plunge into nothingness. The Resolute slid through existence as if gliding across the surface of a tranquil sea. Stars rippled like reflections in water. Each shimmer corresponded to a harmonic tone that resonated faintly through the hull. It was travel by music, not by force. Haven stood at the center of the bridge, watching the phenomenon unfold. His heart thrummed in time with the ship's song. Soren monitored the instruments, though half of what they showed was beyond his comprehension. Commander, he said softly, we're not in standard spacetime. Every coordinate's replaced by frequency signatures. We're moving through what the luminants called the chord plane. Moran adjusted the main display. You can actually see it, look. The viewport displayed not stars, but threads of light winding through infinite distance, each pulsating to a rhythm like a heartbeat. The lattice wasn't a metaphor, it was real. Soren continued, we are following a major harmonic pathway. It's leading us somewhere, maybe another node. Another world, Harvan said. Morin turned. If every world that remembers joins the song, then there must be others already singing. He nodded. Let's find them. Hours, or what passed for hours, later, the Resolute emerged into normal space. The transition was seamless, like waking from a vivid dream. Before them hung a world of pale violet clouds and shining oceans. Massive crystalline structures rose from its continents, visible even from orbit. They pulsed faintly, synchronized with the ship's drive. Sorin stared, awestruck. It's alive. The entire planet's resonating with the same frequency as our lattice field. Harvan leaned closer to the viewport. So this is another verse in the song. Morin brought up atmospheric readings. Stable climate, oxygen-rich. There's no sign of industrial activity, but there are energy signatures, organized and deliberate. Set us in orbit, Harvan ordered. Let's listen before we speak. The Resolute glided into position. The communications array began to hum almost immediately, intercepting a signal faint, melodic, and strangely familiar. It's music, Sorin whispered, but not random. It's patterned like language. Harvan listened, and his pulse quickened. He recognized fragments of the engine's original resonance. Whoever was down there knew the same song. Open a channel, he said. Match their harmonic bass tone. The ship responded, modulating its own resonance field. The air vibrated softly as both frequencies aligned. Then the bridge filled with light. A figure appeared, projected from the very air. It was not human, nor luminant, but something between, a being of translucent form, its structure constantly reshaping like liquid glass. Its voice was pure tone, yet meaning translated instantly in the crew's minds. Welcome, travelers of the third harmony. Your chord has been silent for many cycles. Harvan bowed his head slightly. We are from the world called Earth. We followed the song that your ancestors left in the lattice. The being tilted its head. Earth, yes, the memory of flame and stone. You have rejoined the chorus. Morin stepped forward. Are you the ones who built this world? We are its caretakers. The builders passed long ago, but their melody endures in us. You are proof that the song still grows. Sorin whispered to Harvan, Commander, the readings show their energy is self-contained, complete equilibrium, no entropy loss. They've perfected the resonance. The being turned toward Sorin, as if hearing him directly. Equilibrium is not perfection, child of noise. It is the pause between breaths. The song must move or it fades. Harvan frowned. Then why have you stopped singing outward? The lattice near our world was silent until we reignited it. The being's form dimmed slightly because we feared what the last verse brought. Morin asked softly, what happened? The builders reached beyond harmony. They sought to merge all voices into one. The result was the great collapse, the unmaking of the higher chords. The lattice dimmed and the song fell silent. Harvan's chest tightened. The silence Ravas spoke of, you knew her name. She was human, a captain who became one with the engine and reignited the lattice. The being pulsed brightly, then the melody has turned again. The pattern renews, perhaps balance may yet return. Harvan looked at the crew. If we are part of this song now, then we'll carry it carefully. We've learned what pride costs. The being's form shimmered. Then learn this also, harmony is not obedience. It is conversation. Every voice must differ or the music dies. For 3 days, the Resolute remained in orbit, exchanging harmonic data with the luminous planet. The people below, if they could be called people, taught them how to refine the lattice drive into something safer, more attuned to the flow of creation. Before departure, Harvan stood once more before the being who called itself the Keeper of Chords. You said every world that listens joins the chorus, he said. But if the builders fell because they tried to unite all voices, how do we avoid repeating their mistake? The Keeper's voice resonated like a bell struck by wind. Do not bind the song, share it and let it change you. Sing it differently each time. Harvan smiled. We can do that. The Keeper extended one luminous hand. Then go, children of Earth, carry the melody to those still deaf to it. And remember, if ever the song falters, it is not silence that follows, but the invitation to begin again. Light surrounded the bridge once more. When it faded, the Resolute was alone among the stars, the violet planet receding behind them like a glowing ember. Morin exhaled softly. Do you think there are more worlds like that out there? Haven watched the lattice form again around their hull, glowing faintly. There must be countless verses waiting to be sung. Sorin smiled faintly. Then I guess we'd better start learning the melody. The ship hummed in quiet agreement, its engines aligning to a new chord. The stars stretched once more, and the Resolute leapt into the music of the universe. The Resolute drifted through the chord plane, its hull resonating with a soft undercurrent like the breath of some immense and sleeping creature. The lattice sang around them, threads of light converging and parting, each vibration carrying echoes of distant worlds. For weeks, the journey had been tranquil. Every system functioned perfectly. The crew lived in rhythm with the ship's pulse, their sleep and speech falling into patterns that felt almost musical. Humanity had never known such peace, but then the harmony began to waver. It started subtly, a faint dissonance beneath the main tone, a tremor in the hum of the drive. Sorin was the first to notice. "Commander," he said during a diagnostic cycle, "the frequency baseline's drifting. It's minor, but it's not random. Something pushing against the field." Haven frowned. Interference, more like opposition. Morin adjusted the spectral analysis. The graph displayed the resonance as overlapping waves of gold and blue. Now thin threads of dark static cut across them. "It's a counterharmonic," she said. "Deliberate." Haven's expression hardened. "From where?" Sorin hesitated. "It's coming from inside the lattice." The tone deepened over the next few hours, transforming the gentle hum into an uneasy vibration that made the walls tremble. Crew members reported strange dreams, voices whispering from beneath the harmony, promising order through stillness. Haven convened his officers in the command chamber. "The lattice is alive," he began. "We know that, but something within it remembers the collapse the Keeper spoke of, something that survived it." Morin's eyes were dark. "The shadow of the builders, or their mistake," Sorin murmured. Varron, now security chief aboard the Resolute, folded his arms. "If it's sentient, maybe it doesn't want us here. Maybe we woke up something that wants the song quiet again." A tremor ran through the deck, as though the ship itself flinched. The lights dimmed to a dull amber. Haven steadied himself. "We need to trace the source. Sorin, isolate the counter-frequency." The engineer's fingers flew across the console. "Got it. It's low-band, subharmonic, buried beneath the chord plane's foundation. I can map it, but it's massive. It's not a signal, it's a structure. Show me." The holographic display flared to life, revealing an immense void within the lattice. Where light once wove through graceful arcs, there now stretched a region of stillness, black, silent, endless. Sorin whispered, "The null chord." Haven nodded grimly. "The Keeper warned us about those who sought to merge all voices. This must be their echo." The Resolute drifted closer to the boundary of the void. The harmonic drive strained, its song faltering as the darkness absorbed sound itself. Morin's readings fluctuated wildly, the fields collapsing at the edges. "If we go further, we risk losing our link to the lattice." Haven studied the dark expanse. "If this is what ended the builders, we need to understand it. The song can't survive if the silence still feeds on it." Sorin glanced at him nervously. "If we try to harmonize with it, we might be consumed." "Then we don't harmonize," Haven said. "We listen." He ordered the engines to idle. The ship drifted closer, its hum fading until the only sound was the faint thrum of the crew's own hearts. For a moment there was nothing, no light, no vibration, no movement. Then a voice. It was not a sound in air, but a resonance within the bones, a deep vibration that shook thought itself. "Children of noise, why have you returned?" Haven steadied himself. "We're not your enemies, we're the continuation of the song. The song is corruption, it breeds chaos. We brought stillness to protect creation from itself." Morin whispered, "It thinks silence is preservation." The voice continued, heavy as gravity. "The builders defied entropy. They sought eternity through motion, and it consumed them. We learned the lesson. The universe must rest." Haven's hands clenched. Life doesn't rest, it evolves. You call it chaos, I call it growth. Growth leads to noise. Noise to fracture, fracture to death. We are the end of pain. Then you are the end of meaning, Haven said sharply. The darkness trembled as though wounded by defiance. You will see, the song dies here. The void surged outward, swallowing the lattice. Alarms screamed as the resolute systems flickered. Sorin struggled to keep the resonance field stable. It's draining our harmonic flow, Haven gripped the railing. Can we counter it? Morin shook her head. Not with equal force, it absorbs balance. We'd need to create dissonance, a deliberate break in the harmony. Dissonance, Varen echoed. Wouldn't that tear the lattice apart? Maybe, Morin said, but it's the only thing silence can't digest. Haven's eyes narrowed. Then we give it what it's afraid of. He turned to Sorin, set the engines to inverse phase, push a split-frequency pulse through the drive, something irregular, unpredictable. Sorin hesitated. Commander, that's never been done. We could destroy the ship. Or we save everything beyond it. Do it. The engineer's hands flew over the controls. The hum deepened, warping into a discordant, raw vibration that made the air itself shudder. The sound was not beautiful. It was human, imperfect, uneven, alive. The void recoiled. The darkness rippled as if struck by light. What is this? The voice demanded. Haven stood tall. It's what you forgot. The universe isn't meant to be perfect. It's meant to strive. The Resolute's hull glowed as conflicting frequencies clashed, creating sparks of pure radiance. The lattice screamed with color, then as suddenly as it began, the void fractured. Light flooded back through the rift, washing across the ship in waves of gold. The hum of the lattice returned, louder and more complex than before. Sorin gasped. Commander, the song absorbed the dissonance. It evolved. Haven exhaled slowly. That's how life works. We don't erase discord, we transform it. Morin looked toward the stars beyond the viewport, now blazing with new hues. Then maybe that's what she meant all along, not harmony through sameness, but through difference. Haven nodded. Every voice adds meaning, even the broken ones. When the Resolute finally cleared the void, the lattice shimmered brighter than before. Where darkness had consumed the chords, new pathways now glowed, richer, deeper, more alive. The ship drifted onward, the hum of its engines now interlaced with the faint echo of their defiant song. Haven stood at the viewport, hands clasped behind his back. Reva, he murmured, we've met your shadow. And we've learned its lesson. The stars ahead seemed to flicker in acknowledgement, and for a moment, the faintest whisper of her voice returned. Then keep singing, Haven. The long sky is still listening. The Resolute sailed through a universe reborn. The lattice around them shone like woven glass, each filament humming with renewed complexity. The dissonant frequencies they had unleashed had not broken the harmony, they had deepened it. Everywhere the crew looked, new colors moved through the fabric of space, hues no eye had seen before. The lattice wasn't just restored, it was transforming, alive in ways that defied mathematics or faith. For the first time in centuries, the cosmos was improvising. Haven stood at the main viewport, the reflection of stars dancing across his face. Behind him, Morin approached quietly. We're receiving transmissions from the nearby nodes, she said. Hundreds of them, some from planets that weren't active before the collapse. It's like the lattice is waking up all at once. Haven nodded slowly. The dissonance spread. It broke the stagnation. The silence was never death. It was waiting for the next verse. Morin studied him for a moment. You sound almost at peace. I am, he said. For the first time since Reva vanished. She smiled faintly. Maybe you'll get to thank her after all. Sorin entered the bridge, excitement lighting his eyes. Commander, we've received a signal directly from our home world. It's not from the planetary network, it's from beneath it. Beneath? Yes, deep subsurface resonance, matching the engine's original harmonic pattern. It's growing stronger. Haven frowned. Patch it through. The comms array crackled, and a low tone filled the bridge. It wasn't mechanical. It was organic, steady, deliberate, pulsing like a heartbeat. Morin's breath caught. It's the same frequency Reva used to initiate the engine. But how is it active again? Soren's fingers danced over the controls. Triangulating, it's coming from the core of the planet. The engine is reforming itself. Haven straightened. After all these years, the hum deepened. Across the lattice, filaments began converging toward the system's coordinates, drawn like rivers to a sea. Varen's voice echoed over the comm. "Commander, you're not going to believe this. The resonance field around Earth is expanding. We are seeing spontaneous auroras across half the globe." Morin's expression darkened slightly. Could it be the same pattern that triggered the original event? Haven shook his head. "No, this isn't collapse. This is culmination." By the time they reached orbit, the planet was encased in light. The auroras stretched from pole to pole, forming a vast geometric web. From space, it looked like the planet itself was singing. The Resolute descended slowly through the shimmering atmosphere. The crew watched in silence as golden clouds parted to reveal the continents below, glowing along ancient riverbeds and mountain ridges. Morin whispered, "She's awakening the world itself." Soren's instruments confirmed it. The resonance is spreading through every layer, crust, mantle, even the core. The planet's harmonizing with the lattice. It's becoming part of the song. Haven's eyes were distant, or maybe it always was. As the ship approached the equatorial continent, a familiar structure came into view, the ancient site where the original engine had been unearthed generations ago. Only now, it was no ruin. A crystalline formation rose from the desert, vast and luminous, its spires reaching into the sky like frozen lightning. It pulsed in rhythm with the lattice, every surface alive with golden light. Morin gasped softly. "It's rebuilt itself." Haven whispered, "No, she's rebuilt herself." They landed near the central spire. The ground vibrated gently underfoot, humming with resonance. The air shimmered, filled with motes of light that moved as if aware of their presence. Soren scanned the structure. The energy readings are impossible. The lattice converges here, every chord, every frequency. This isn't just a planetary node, it's a nexus. Haven stepped forward until the light from the spire illuminated his face. "She's calling us home." Morin placed a hand on his arm. "You think she's inside?" He smiled faintly. "She's everywhere, but yes, this is where she'll speak." The hum deepened, and the light intensified until the world seemed to dissolve around them. They found themselves standing within a vast chamber of golden radiance. No walls, no ceiling, only endless light woven into spirals of form. A figure appeared before them, composed of pure energy. She looked human, but her presence was more than physical. The melody that surrounded her was unmistakable. "Riva," Haven breathed. Her eyes, if they were eyes, shone with infinite calm. "You came back." Morin trembled, her voice breaking. "We thought you were gone." "I was never gone," she said. "I became the bridge between the song and its singers. You've carried it farther than I ever could." Haven took a step closer. "We faced the silence, the null chord. We learned what the builders forgot, that harmony isn't perfection, it's difference." Rivas smiled, the gesture soft and radiant. "Then the lesson is complete." Soren's voice shook. "What happens now?" Rivas turned toward the luminous patterns swirling around them. "The lattice is ready to transcend the physical plane. The song will continue, but not as you know it. It will move beyond time, beyond decay." Morin looked stricken. "Are you saying we'll lose it? Everything we've built?" Rivas shook her head. "Nothing truly harmonized is ever lost. But you must choose, remain as you are, keep the melody bound to matter, or join the next verse and become part of the eternal resonance." Haven's heart clenched. Transcendence or remembrance? "Yes," Rivas said, "both paths are true, but only one can be chosen for your kind." The light pulsed gently, waiting. For a long moment, no one spoke. Morin's voice was quiet. "If we ascend, we'll lose everything, our cities, our oceans, our lives." Soren added, "But if we stay, we might never reach this point again." Haven closed his eyes, hearing the echo of Rivas' words through the years. "You are not its masters nor its servants. You are its continuation." He opened them again, calm and resolute. "We'll stay," he said. Rivas tilted her head. "Why? Because songs are meant to be sung, not ended. We'll carry it forward generation by generation. Let the next ones find their own verse." For a heartbeat, Rivas simply watched him. Then she smiled, bright as a newborn star. You understand. The chamber filled with sound, joyful, limitless, alive. The song will remember you, she said softly, and I will too. Light enveloped them. The light receded like the ebb of a golden tide, leaving the crew once again upon solid ground. The crystalline spire still pulsed gently beside them, its rhythm now calmer, no longer summoning but steadying. The hum in the air had softened from an invitation to a benediction. Soren was the first to speak. She's gone again, isn't she? Haven nodded. Not gone, everywhere. Morin looked to the horizon, where dawn light shimmered across the dunes. The sky itself seemed richer, deeper, as though the colors had learned a new language. If she's part of everything, then maybe that's how it's supposed to be. The song isn't hers alone now. Haven smiled faintly. It never was. The days that followed were unlike any in human memory. The lattice didn't fade or vanish. It nested itself within the living world. Resonance became a quiet undercurrent, guiding the tides and wind, shaping weather with a precision no machine could match. Plants grew with subtle rhythm. The sway of their leaves mirrored the frequencies of the lattice. Oceans pulsed with harmonic waves. Even storms carried structure, breaking and reforming as if aware of their place in the pattern. Cities on the continents below reported the same transformation. Power systems no longer required fuel. The resonance provided limitless energy, drawn from the lattice's flow. Disease declined as biological systems subtly synchronized with the harmonics of balance. It was not perfection. It was dynamic, ever-moving equilibrium. Haven and his crew watched this new age unfold from the Resolute's orbital vantage. Every hour brought new reports of renewal, forests reawakening, glaciers retreating with purpose, species long extinct reappearing through spontaneous genetic correction. Humanity had become the steward of a living world again. Soren leaned back in his chair, eyes glinting with awe. It's like the planet is breathing with us. Morin nodded. We gave it a song, now it's writing verses of its own. The Resolute had become a vessel of memory. Its corridors echoed with the hum of a quieter kind of purpose, observation, reflection, gratitude. Haven spent his evenings alone on the viewing deck, watching the auroras ripple across the planet's surface. Each color shift told a story, green for renewal, blue for balance, gold for growth. He often spoke aloud, as if Ravak could still hear him. You said the song would remember us, he murmured one night, but maybe we're the ones who'll remember you. The hum in the air deepened slightly, almost like a response. He smiled. That's enough. Behind him, Morin entered quietly. You still talk to her, always. She came to stand beside him, hands clasped behind her back. Do you think she became the lattice? Haven shook his head. No, the lattice became her. That's what we never understood before. The builders didn't create it, they awakened it. Just like we did, the song was always there, waiting for someone to listen. Morin's voice softened, and now it listens back. Months passed, though time no longer felt the same. The lattice altered the flow of reality in subtle ways. Seasons shifted in perfect balance, weather harmonized across hemispheres. The planet's magnetic field stabilized, and tectonic movement aligned with resonance nodes, reducing quakes and destruction. But even in peace, humanity remained restless. The song inspired exploration, invention, and renewal. Vessels like the Resolute ventured beyond known systems, tracing the filaments that stretched toward other galaxies. Reports returned from these distant paths, signals of other civilizations, some primitive, some far more advanced, all singing fragments of their own cosmic verses. Haven gathered his officers for one final council in the Resolute's hall. The song is spreading, Morin said. Each world that touches the lattice adds to its depth. We're not alone anymore, Commander. Haven smiled. We never were. We just didn't know how to listen. Soren grinned. Then maybe that's our next mission, to teach others to listen too. Haven nodded. Not to control, not to preach, just to share. If we can help even one world avoid the silence we faced, it'll be worth every risk. Morin placed her hand on the table, the lattice light glinting across her skin. You really think this can last? Harvan looked out the viewport toward the lattice's gleaming expanse. Nothing lasts, but that's not the point. Songs fade, but they're never lost. They echo through whoever remembers them. The others fell silent, the hum of the Resolute filling the room. That night, as the crew prepared for departure, the sky above the world rippled once more. The auroras converged into a single spiral that stretched from pole to pole. Harvan felt it before he saw it, a pulse of warmth through the deck, a vibration in his chest. Then her voice came again, faint but unmistakable. Harvan, he froze, eyes wide. Riva, the voice was gentler now, diffused through every frequency. You kept your promise. The song lives, he smiled. We only did what you started. No, she said, you did what only humans could. You made it imperfect. You made it real. The builders tried to perfect the universe. You taught it to grow. Harvan swallowed hard. Are you happy? There is no happiness where I am, only completion. But if there were, it would sound like this. A wave of sound enveloped him, not words, not melody, but a resonance that carried feeling itself. Gratitude, peace. Continuation. When it faded, he stood alone again, tears glinting in the aurora's glow. Morin entered moments later. What happened? He turned to her, smiling softly. She sang goodbye. The Resolute lifted from orbit at dawn. As it ascended through the golden atmosphere, the crystalline spire below refracted the sunlight into a column of brilliant color, visible all the way to the edge of space. Harvan watched it until it became a pinprick, then a memory. Set course for the next chord plane, he said quietly. Let's see who else is ready to sing. The engines hummed. The ship turned toward the boundless glow of the lattice, trailing a line of silver light behind it. As the Resolute vanished into the shimmering depths, the song of humanity joined the chorus of countless worlds, each note distinct, each imperfect, each eternal. The Resolute glided through a corridor of light, unlike any the crew had seen. The lattice had changed, its geometry no longer linear or predictable. Filaments curved and folded in ways that defied physics, intertwining like the roots of a living tree. Every pulse shimmered with traces of human resonance, distinct yet woven seamlessly into the cosmic whole. Sorin studied the readings, his expression awed. Commander, these new frequencies, they're patterned after our dissonant pulse from the null chord. The lattice learned from us. Morin smiled. It's improvising again. Harvan gazed out the viewport, eyes soft with reflection. Then maybe that's how the universe grows. Each civilization adds its own imperfection, and the song becomes stronger for it. He leaned closer to the glass, watching colors ripple across the spectrum. Gold bled into violet, violet into teal, until the hues merged into something that wasn't light at all but memory given form. They followed the lattice deeper, passing through sectors where the stars themselves seemed to breathe. Some systems shone brighter, resonating with new life. Others were quiet, their songs dormant, waiting. On the fourth week of travel, they detected a harmonic call, a steady beacon rising from a cluster of stars beyond the mapped edge of the lattice. The signal was unmistakably artificial, yet carried the organic rhythm of the lattice's pulse. Sorin's eyes brightened. It's a human pattern, Commander, modified but human. Harvan felt a thrill of recognition. A colony that survived? Morin checked the coordinates. No, this is further than any vessel from the Accord ever reached. It's something new. Then let's find it. The Resolute turned toward the beacon, engines whispering against the hum of the lattice. As they approached, the pattern clarified, not a distress signal, but a song. It carried no words, only rhythm and tone, repeating in cycles of 9. When they reached the source, they found a world unlike any charted before. The planet glowed faintly, wrapped in a sheath of translucent light that resonated with the lattice's pulse. Its oceans shimmered like liquid crystal, and its continents were veined with structures that looked neither natural nor constructed. Sorin whispered, "It's singing back." Harvan nodded, "Land us." As the Resolute descended, the song grew clearer, each note aligning with the hum of the ship's drive. When they broke through the cloud layer, they saw them, structures rising like spirals of woven glass, filled with light that shifted in time with the lattice. Figures moved among them, human shapes. But as the crew disembarked onto the crystalline ground, it became clear these were not quite human as they had known. Their skin shimmered faintly, suffused with resonance, their eyes reflecting the spectrum of the lattice itself. They greeted the visitors not with words, but with harmonic gestures, tones that vibrated softly in the chest and air. Morin felt her translator fail, overwhelmed by layered meaning. They're not speaking, they're resonating. They're communicating through frequency alignment. Haven stepped forward, placed a hand on his chest, and matched the nearest tone as best he could. The air between them rippled. The being tilted its head and responded in a tone that harmonized perfectly with his. Then faintly it spoke in halting language. "You are from the old verse." Haven blinked. "You understand me?" The being smiled. "We were made from your song." Soren's breath caught. "Commander, their genetic structure, look." He held up his scanner. "It's human, altered, evolved, but human." The being nodded gently. "We are the echo of what you gave the sky. The lattice carried your resonance to us long ago. We learned to shape it, to live by it. You were our beginning." Morin looked around in wonder. "Then this world, it's one of ours." The being shook its head softly. "Not yours, ours, but also yours, as all songs are." Haven's voice was quiet. "You've built harmony without silence. You've done what we only dreamed." The being reached out, touching the air between them. "Because you taught the universe to accept imperfection." For a moment, the commander couldn't speak. They spent days on the world, learning the ways of its people. They called themselves the Resonant, born from the lattice's adaptation of human frequency. They did not age as others did. They lived in cycles of transformation, dissolving into light when their voices grew weary, their patterns absorbed into the planetary chord. They had no leaders, no nations, no conflict. They lived through exchange, each life a verse, each community a melody within the greater whole. Haven stood atop a crystalline ridge at sunset, watching the horizon pulse in shades of violet and gold. Morin joined him, silent for a long time. "They're what we could have become," she said softly. He nodded. "Maybe we still can, someday." "Do you think Ravan knew this would happen?" Haven thought of her face, radiant and calm within the lattice's light. "I think she hoped it might. The song was never meant to end with us." On the morning of their departure, the Resonant gathered in the valley below the ship. Thousands stood together, their voices merging into a single chord that rose through the air like a living sunrise. It wasn't a farewell. It was gratitude, an offering, a continuation. The Resolute's hull shimmered in response, every plate vibrating with the resonance. Soren wiped his eyes. "They're harmonizing with our ship." Haven smiled faintly. "Then we'll carry their verse with us." As the ship ascended, the song followed them into the sky. Even as the planet fell away below, the chord lingered in the lattice, its tones joining those of countless worlds. Years later, when Haven was gone and the Resolute itself had become a relic of an older age, humanity still sailed the lattice. New vessels crossed its radiant paths, each one singing its own verse into the endless harmony. On the home world, the crystalline spire still stood. Children played among its glowing roots, their laughter echoing through chambers that remembered the first note. And sometimes, on quiet nights when the air was still, those who listened closely could hear it, the faint melody of the long sky, woven through wind and sea and stars. It was not perfect, it was not finished, but it was alive, and it was theirs.